So, Jonathan, we're having a conversation about asking questions of the Scriptures when we read it. Why is it important for us to ask questions?
Well, because I don't know about the people that are watching and listening, but for me, and I know you agree, we're big fans of questions. If you can learn to ask the right questions, because when I know the right questions to ask, it really leads me down the right path. And so when I'm reading the Bible, there's some questions that you can learn to get into a habit of asking yourself about what you're reading, even if it's a small section, that helps you know what to do with it. Like, first question would be, what am I learning? Right? What does this teach me?
Right.
What does it teach me about God? What does this teach me about life? What does this teach me about this person's life I'm reading about? And so just asking the simple question, okay, what do I learn from reading this, is a simple question, but allows you to be able to put it in bite-sized chunks to be able to apply later on, what you're reading.
Right. So, for example, what are some questions that you use as you're reading the Scriptures?
Okay, I start with that one. What am I learning here? Another one is, okay, what do I need to do now? Because, right, a lot of people go to the Bible just to learn stuff about God and about the Bible. And while that's not a bad thing, that's not the ultimate goal. The goal is for us to learn to do differently and live differently and be different because of it.
Right.
And so a question I ask often is, okay, so what do I need to do? Maybe what do I need to do with God? What do I need to do personally? What do I need to do in reference to you? Like, did I just get through reading something about forgiveness and, I need to forgive Eric.
Right.
I need to ask Eric to forgive me.
Right.
See, so asking those questions a lot of times just brings to light, the whole purpose of what I'm reading to begin with. And then another one I ask is there something I need to remember, and how can I remember it?
Right.
So it may be something I need to write down and put on a bulletin board or on my car dash, or maybe a mirror in the bathroom. Maybe it's something I want to memorize, right? And because I want to just have this at a moment's notice to be able to recall this, because it's encouraging, because it's challenging, helpful, whatever.
Some of the things you and I talk about from us reading the Scriptures, are there a lot of principles that we learn as we're reading the Scriptures and what God has said? Talk a little bit about how you learn those principles and you apply them into your life.
Yeah, well, there's direct commands that you read in the Scripture. And again, going back to an earlier video we did, context matters, right?
Right.
Who is talking, who's talking to whom,
right.
What are they talking about, what's the setting and context. But there are some direct commands, like, for instance, in Jesus' teaching, that he gives us, and us meaning his followers. And so those are pretty cut and dry.
Right.
We just basically do what Jesus said to do, right? Like, love your neighbor as yourself kind of thing, right? We just kind of look at that and go, all right, that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
But sometimes then you see things happening in the Scriptures that you go, now, what's the principle that this teaches me? And so that's not a direct command, but maybe the principle is, I see patience here. I need to learn to be more patient. Sometimes I need to wait a little bit longer. The principle here is that I shouldn't be driven by fear. I should be driven by faith.
Right.
And so sometimes it's not a direct command. Sometimes it's like, what's the lesson, the principle that emerges from the story or from the situation?
One of the reasons why I like approaching the Scriptures with questions is I come to the Scriptures with a sense of anticipation because I'm asking something. My mind is more prepared, and I'm ready, engaged to learn something by asking questions of it. Talk a little bit about how helpful that is.
Well, it's extremely helpful from a practical standpoint. It helps you be able to take what you've read and kind of divide it up into bite-sized chunks so you can absorb it and apply it. But as Christians, and not everybody that watches this will be a Christian, I get it. But one of the beliefs that Christians have is that the words of God, Jesus' words, actually have life within them, and it's really a supernatural thing. They have life within them. So I believe if I come to the words of God and ask the right questions, that they are life-giving and transformational to me. It's just not words on a page. It's actually so much more than that.
Right. So why does asking questions of the text really matter?
Yeah, it matters because, as we've talked about before, and I've heard you say this many times, is that asking the right questions will get you so much farther than just trying to find the right answers.
Right.
And it sounds like the same thing, but it's different. It's a different approach, a different posture. So this matters because asking the right kinds of questions about this or anything in life will take you much further, faster.